And the moment they're there, and once they see the connection and they see it so clearly that there's nothing that is unexplained and everything is explained for what they just experienced, then that's where the light turns on. And once it's been on, it becomes easier and easier to get there, and then it's a matter of...
I haven't actually thought about it this way. It's a good way of putting it. If I stated correctly, it would be that the process is facilitated in a way that they're conscious of what's going on when the process is going on, so that they can even carry out the process independently of the training itself. So actually, you facilitate that process in the participant, but that doesn't mean that participant isn't aware of that process in themselves, and they can carry that as
right. Because what we do, or I do, is just we make explicit, and for them that's the surprising part, is that I can tell them what's going on in their head without them telling me that that's what's going on in their head. So that in itself is already proving that there's something universal about the process that I'm trying to make them aware of. Because otherwise, how could I talk about it in the moment that it's happening and describe it the way it's happening when they think it's only taking part in my personal consciousness, which it isn't. It's universal. That's what happens when this happens. And how do I know? Not because I learned it and I repeat it. No, because as they're going through it, I go through that same process in myself, and I just I describe it verbally, and the words connect one-on-one with what they're seeing in themselves.
Okay, so it's almost it's taking a process that's detached from them and then allowing them to experience that process in themselves and making them conscious of that through the distinctions that they become aware of throughout the...
Well, the distinctions are only a tool. The distinctions force people to reconsider what they thought they already knew. That's all.
Okay.
So, and of course it enables them, because the distinctions are instruments later on which will help them to solve their issues far more elegantly and quickly. But the issue for the training is not necessarily the distinctions, but only those distinctions that are necessary for them to stop being able to stick to the limitations. The distinctions force consciousness, and the consciousness then forces the process of change, and that then is the aspect that we turn their attention on, and then they see what it means if things start changing, and how they stand in its way or how they facilitate it. And that's what they go away with, and that's the new confidence that arises, because they know it's not depending on some guru, or it's completely independent. You know, you see in any environment, like in the religious environments where people try to say God is in you, or I saw Jesus in my life, or whatever, what they're actually saying, and they're all in unison as to what it means, is that there's an experience in them that they call Jesus in your life, and they know how it feels and how you react when that happens, and they recognize it in other people, and then they say, I see you have Jesus in your life. So yeah, if people ask me, do you have Jesus in your life, I could say yes, because if I don't want to teach them anything beyond what they already think they see, then that's the way to unite. But saying Jesus is in your life has also got certain limitations, and I so far haven't found anybody who has had the experience and interpreted it as Jesus in your life is willing to look further and discover more. Because they see that this discovery is the ultimate thing, and that whole perspective itself is one giant limitation. Although it's very much preferable from anybody who hasn't even got an experience that even comes close to that, which they call Jesus in your life. But it's not about concepts anymore. It's about seeing how important it is for you that you can say that that's Jesus. That all of a sudden gets the process going again.
It sounds like the experience itself, once it's connected to a certain thing, then it's of course, as you said, it's limited to that thing.
Yes, but hey, let's say if you say that you're from the Middle Ages, yeah, and everybody has a horse to as ways of traveling long distances, then whatever we nowadays have as the cheapest car that's available, would be considered like a big limitation if you want to do Formula One racing. Yeah, but from the Middle Ages, that limitation is like a giant step forward. It's almost impossible to conceive. So this is the way that concepts like Jesus or God or whatever it is that people connotate with the experience they have it can actually be far beyond what anybody else in their environment has experienced or does experience as a matter of fact. But personally speaking, if it depends on what you can imagine, then it's still limited. Because what we're talking about is always moving beyond your imagination. It's always it's a wonder every time again. If you allow the consciousness to grow to the point where the discomfort is there and what you see possible, but you do not see how to resolve the things that stand in its way, and you just allow that to happen and before you know it, a solution pops in your head, and you just, where did that come from? My God, that could not be. And then all of a sudden you realize, it's true. Oh my, I solved it. That's impossible. The wonder of it. Every time again. And it's not depending on anything or anybody. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Very rewarding. And you can still be very individual if that's important to you. You can use it in any direction that you find things that are important to you.
There was one thing that I find myself to be very practical, and getting things directly to the point. And the one thing that's quite, which if you're very determined, then the whole idea of going through meaning to get to results seems like a foreign concept.
If you really say that you are about what you say you are about, in this case about results, then can you afford not to find out what this could add to the effectiveness that you've already achieved so far?
Okay, you got me there. Yes.
You can?
No.
Okay.
What?
So then the only question remains, so what would be the circumstances under which this would be a feasible thing to investigate?
Yeah.
So I would say, again, as I would say to those professional consultants, that find a situation where you've decided not to pursue it anymore because you don't see that it's going to be possible. Yeah, but if you are honest to yourself that it somehow does frustrate you, the fact that you have to let it where it is, yeah, you don't pursue it anymore for that reason. That's what have you got to lose? Bring it forward and let's see whether, from the perspective of what we call meaning, things can be arranged, and then if that proves to be the case, how that same experience can be used to make everything you're already achieving more effortless and more rewarding in the process. Who knows? You might discover something new.
I'm funny, by your example, the question that you asked me, you sort of validated the point in the way that through the interaction, even though I was goal-oriented, the fact that I was stating it in that way and your response helped me get more of what I want in my life in that sense. Yeah, it was an example of the competency, if I had to call it, in action.
Right. You know, it may sound a bit arrogant, but from what I see, that there's no situation where people would not benefit from what we have to offer.
Yeah.
The only way that they would not benefit if they have an interest in not making their life more rewarding. If they're already set on the world is a bad place, that happiness is an illusion, and yeah, those people might have a good reason not to join the training because they would be in for a surprise, I guess.